You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction films and those key elements that lift them above the average genre fare. If you're joining us today for the first time, we would like to welcome you. Surprise, surprise, you don't know what you're in for, including that mime that I see. And if you are coming back, we would like to welcome you back. You probably know that I am referring to the video feed that is on our YouTube channel and the crazy podcast partner of mine, Mr. David Horton. Hello, David. How are you doing?
I am well. I was rehearsing all my silent movie moves.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Today is a double feature.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I'm doing well. I'm doing. What about you?
Oh, I've been great. I have. I actually had a good genre week this week. Last week, as you know, I watched Saint Maud, which
Saint
really
Maud
disappointed
or
me.
whatever. Yeah.
This one, I don't know if you've heard of this one, but I think you should check it out. It's a movie called Sweetheart.
Sweetheart. Okay.
I knew absolutely nothing about this movie except I was searching for highly rated movies again via Rotten Tomatoes and just the internet in general. And I discovered this. I will say the title is stupid. They needed a better title, but they didn't really know what to call it.
Those two images don't seem to be related, in my opinion. I mean, Tim has a picture of an African-American woman who I guess maybe underwater or maybe something.
Yeah, it's like it's got like a reflection of an island beneath.
And then on the other one is like a funky, weird seahorse thing. I don't know what it is, whatever. But it also says Blumhouse, and isn't Blumhouse like horror?
It is.
Isn't that's okay.
Yeah, basically all I'm going to say is this movie's script was only 60-something pages long because there is very little dialogue in it. And it is about a young lady that is shipwrecked on an island that suddenly realizes at night she is not alone. There is something else out there.
The seahorse thing? The seahorse thing on your left? What is it? I don't know what it is.
It's a monster movie.
Oh, okay.
And it's a good creature feature. And it's got some great twists.
And the title's terrible, you said.
The title's well, what it is that she has a boyfriend that was on the boat that wrecked, and he refers to her as sweetheart. I'm like, well, why do they call it that? It's kind of stupid. But I mean, I guess the only other thing they could call it would be even worse, like Stranded or Monster Land. I don't know, Monster Island.
Monster Island, yeah. There you go.
But yeah, I don't want to give anything away. I highly recommend it. I mean, it's not like in the stratospheres of great films, but it's fun. It's a fun one for sure.
Nice. They've had a string I've seen in just the trailers, Blumhouse, of these stranded groups. They had the one that was like their version of Fantasy Island where they all go, and it was a Blumhouse.
It was like a dark version of Fantasy
Island.
Right.
They had another one that was, I saw it was like two sisters and they're in the woods in a cabin and monsters or killers or something. It's interesting. They've seemed to have lately had a string of isolation fear, which I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I don't know. I'm trying to think. You're better at remembering what films are with what production company, and I'm trying to distinguish A24 with Blumhouse.
No, they're two different ones, but they're good.
I know, but A24 I think may be stronger.
Oh, definitely. And more, they tend to have a few more classics. I remember A24 because the first time A24 was, they did some kind of Welles movie. They did some kind of Orson Welles thing. I can't remember if it was like, the making of War of the Worlds, or if it was something about Citizen Kane. I think it may have been Citizen Kane, like a behind the things. But really good cast and strong movie. And then since then, I've seen them do a couple of other, classic, bigger Hollywood features.
Well, they did The Witch, and they did Midsommar, and they did Hereditary, and I mean, but I would one that sticks in my mind that I need to put on the list for next season. It's already on the list. We just haven't chose it yet, and it's a movie called It Comes at Night, and that's a good isolation, like almost post-apocalyptic movie too. And
Okay.
it's a good one.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, Blumhouse and A24 seem to be putting out some solid work, I guess.
Yeah. Well, in Blumhouse, yeah, I don't know. And I seem to remember vaguely reading something about them, about how they got started or whatever, because it's named after him, I think. It's named after some guy named Blumhouse, I think. And he's like their big producer dude, but always wanted to, he's kind of like the Wes Craven, the new Wes Craven, even though he's not the artistic guy, he's the producer guy.
And what is the one Raimi's affiliated with? Ghost House? Didn't he have a Ghost House Productions at one time?
Yeah, wasn't that the one that did the
It Follows, maybe?
No. Well, yeah, he did that one, but the other one was the one that Raimi directed, or not directed, but produced. Girl in New York, scary demon, very bloody.
Drag Me to Hell?
Yeah. Wasn't that Ghost House too? I think it was.
It probably was, because Raimi did direct that. I haven't seen it since I saw it at the theater, but yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a subset. Oh, I saw a picture of him directing the new, Doctor Strange, and he's in his suit. That's his affectation, right? You knew that, right? That's his big deal. He's like Alfred Hitchcock. On the set, he always wears a jacket and a tie.
That's hilarious.
Set,
he didn't do that in the woods of East Tennessee.
No. He barely slept. What are you talking about? It was, you couldn't. No, you couldn't.
The pictures I've seen of him down there, he was in like a t-shirt. Actually, it was cold, so he was wearing a jacket. Yeah.
I think he started that in Army of Darkness, or he may have started in Darkman. Yeah, Darkman, I think. But that's become his affectation. If he's on, you see behind the scenes of like Spider-Man or anything else, and he's in a suit the whole time he directs.
I haven't seen Darkman.
It's really interesting.
Time.
Darkman might be cool to add to our list.
I think it's on there. We just may have not selected it. I can't remember. It would definitely fall in both categories, probably.
Well, my genre week was decidedly ungenre because we had a double feature this week, and I had no freaking time to do anything other than research these two. But I did at the theater I'm working in and everything else. We had a film last week, and it was my favorite, one of my favorite films of all time. It was Jaws, and it was so neat to see Jaws on the big screen again with an audience. It was just so neat to hear him scream when Ben Gardner's head comes out. And at the end of it, I mean, people like applauded and hooted and hollered. I was going, wow, this movie's 40 freaking years old. And
well, you've also are showing it to a bunch of people that have been pent up in their houses for a year.
True. There is that.
They were just applauding because they were happy.
I'm in public. Oh, yeah, I'm in public. Yeah. So
that's funny.
That. But yeah, I didn't have a good chance to do anything because I had to research these two, films. It's a double feature. It's a double header.
And we've been talking about two aquatic movies, and there's really no segue unless you include the flood at the end of the first one.
True. And the beach location in the second one. There we go. We got watertight in there somehow, but it's not really that. I mean, the segue might be, here's the segue. What was our intention in putting these two movies together?
I was going to ask you that. That was on my list of questions for you because you're the one that did it, not me.
Well, I think
you put them together and said
we were talking about female influence. We were talking about how the movies focus on female influence.
I thought it had to do with robots.
Could be robots.
But there's really not a lot of robot play in the first one, which I was surprised by.
Well, let's go back. Let's talk. Wait, here. Let's go to our first one, and we'll try to discuss them one at a time, but we'll probably overlap like we always do. So we'll just tell you guys ahead of time, if you're listening or watching us, if you haven't seen these movies, go watch them now and then come back and watch this. If you had seen them, then follow along and take notes and tell us where you agree and disagree. But we are going to be beginning today with a movie from 1927. This movie is almost 100 years old.
That's my dad's birthday.
And
Birth year, that is.
1927?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. It was written by and directed by Fritz Lang. It's basically his baby, and any film historians will tell you this is really his movie, even though it was originally, or the screenplay is helped out by Theo van Harbor. It stars Brigitte Helm, Alfred Abel, and Gustav Fröhlich. It is a German production. Of course, it is in German. The story is, although we want to say it's simple, it's actually a very, very multi-layered story. It's basically a biblical allegory. But for those of you who haven't watched it, why are you listening? But I'll just tell you, it's set in the future. There's a huge, pardon the allusion to the title, Metropolis, or sprawling, huge futuristic city. However, it's sharply divided between a working class and the upper elite. The elite play in gardens and have big dances and balls, and the workers, with their heads bowed, trudge to work for 10 hours on a shift, each and every day, keeping the machines running that keep the society going. The basic story follows this one gentleman, Frater, and we find out he is actually the son of the mastermind of the city. Although there's no political allusion, he's not a mayor, he's the mastermind. And Frater falls in love with a teacher who's a lower class girl in a very Romeo and Juliet kind of star-crossed lover thing. She is predicting that there's going to be what they call the mediator, or a person who's going to come about to heal the division between the head and the hands, and they're going to be the heart. And they say that like 3 freaking times in great big bold print. And it's a big deal. And it actually happens after about almost 3 hours of movie. Had you seen this movie before?
Only clips. And before,
so you've never seen the whole thing?
Never had. And okay. Before I proceed with a first impression, I want to commend you for choosing not only a silent film for our double feature, but 2 foreign films. 2, because whether you know it or not, the second one is Australian.
I didn't know that.
So here we are in Germany, watching Fritz Lang's Metropolis, and I knew it was a very influential film, and I wanted to see it. I had no idea that the restored version was 2 hours long, and in my opinion, a good half hour way too long. And I was struck, and always have been, with that robot image that is behind me, and if you're watching YouTube, and it's barely in the movie at all.
Yeah, it's basically literally about 3 minutes in the whole movie.
Yeah. But no, I had never seen it. Only clips at like award ceremonies.
Interesting. So then I have to ask, before you give your initial, do you think it holds up to this influential fame that it has?
I do. I think for the time, it was probably quite amazing to watch, especially the miniatures of the city and the the trains and stuff connecting it, and the robot, and the ideal. There was a lot. You mentioned the hand, the head, the heart thing. There's a lot of suggestion in this movie towards a brighter future, or should I say themes that are presented that I guess in a silent film it's just kind of hard to do it without hammering it in. But what I'm saying is they're universal themes, and they're there, and they're very powerful.
Yes. This movie was politicized for different times in its history for either supporting communism or being anti-communistic.
Okay.
And Fritz Lang has said in interviews that that was never the intention. That's not what he meant in the telling of the story. The story was how a single person can make a difference, can change the world, can change society, sort of thing. He wanted it more of a, I guess, for our key references, that more of that Joseph Campbell or that hero cycle story arc sort of thing, is what the intent was, although it has been utilized by propagandists, to make it, oh, this is all about socialism, how the workers need to rise up and take over, and all
Well,
that.
and I mean, Hitler loved this movie too. So
Yeah, that didn't make Fritz Lang happy at all.
No.
No, Goebbels loved it, especially because he thought it would be a great propaganda tool.
right.
Yeah. But so overall, did you like it other than its length? Did you like it? Did you think it was boring? Did you think, big deal?
I appreciate what it attempted to convey, but it is definitely it's a hard watch because it is so long, and it is funny in places because they over emote and say a whole bunch of words, and then like 3 words appear up on the subtitles. Yeah. and then she says, "I love you," or whatever. And there is a lot. I was making fun of this, but there's a lot of running around in this movie. These sets are enormous, and I mean, people are just running constantly. And I mean, I read somewhere that he had. I read 2 different accounts. One was that he had 25,000 extras, but then another was that he had like 45,000 and 25 of them were men. And I was like, how can you have that many extras unless you had different ones reporting to work each day? There's no way you had 45,000 people in a shot.
Well, it may have been cumulative too. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't remember, but I think the filming of this was months and months and months and months and months long.
Yeah.
I think it was almost 2 years.
So
filming.
it could have been, one extra one day and a different one the next. So yeah,
Correct.
It could have
So
eventually.
it could have been
added up to that.
cumulative, but there are a ton of freaking people in this, and there are huge sets. And to your point, there's a lot of running. There's a lot of running in this movie, and a lot of happenstance. Like, I'm running in this huge metropolis, but I happen to run right where you are. I can meet you right over here.
I know. I was thinking of that Army of Dead movie we were talking about, where all of a sudden, oh, there's a helicopter on that building over there. I'll just run over there.
I'll just run over there and jump on it before it can take off. Yeah. There's, I can't remember the last time I saw this movie, but I know it was decades ago that I watched it.
So it wouldn't have been the restored version I watched was 2010. So it wouldn't have been that version. It could have been the Marauder version.
Yeah, I think last time I saw it was the Marauder version, and I'd seen it once before in like its quote original form, which was the one I watched, which was like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Ooh. I think it was. It was long. And yeah, to tell such a simplistic style story in that amount of time, Jesus, I kept thinking back, wow, all those producers in the 70s and the 80s that were bitching that, the movie has to be 90 minutes, has to be 90 minutes, has to be 90 minutes. I would go, look at this damn thing. It tells like 3 sentences of story in 2.5 hours.
I know. And like, what did you get? I'm not sure I even understood, or if they did it just to, I don't know, look fancy, but the whole idea of the prelude being over an hour long and then the intermezzo being
right.
That was weird. I was like, I thought there was going to be like an intermission, like Gone with the Wind or something.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's his 3-act structure, so that's why he kind of worded it, which was also the way some operas were done at the time. It's also the way some orchestras or classical presentations were done at the time.
And there is a lot of good music in it. So, I mean, he did kind of have that going.
Well, and it depends on what music you listen to, because it's been changed. It's kind of like, one of the keys I have is this is similar to the way Dracula was, or not Dracula. What did we cover already.
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu, that had the different versions almost immediately after it came out. People started cutting it, rearranging it, adding stuff to it.
Yeah, they cut the hell out of this.
Oh yeah, definitely. And see, I struggle with this movie because it is always listed on everybody's list of sci-fi classics.
It's the first, isn't it?
That's what they say. People say this was the first, whereas I would much more say that Milieu's, Earth to the Moon, the one that was done in like 1906 or whatever, the one it's not very long. It's only like a 20-30 minute silent classic.
The one where the bullet goes in the moon's eye or whatever.
In the moon's eye. Yeah. That's
or the
science fiction and fantasy and everything else. The first. This, we've gone back and forth in the podcast because my definition of a science fiction movie is science has to propel the plot. You know what I mean? Science has to have a reason for it. And if that's the case, then yeah, this falls into that, because without the science of the metal man, who's obviously a woman, why do we call him a man? But anyway, without that science and without her inciting the riot and without her being controlled by him, there wouldn't be a plot. There wouldn't be a story. So I could see that, but science ain't so particular in this, other than saying it's a utopian setting. Science doesn't.
Or those machines are very sophisticated. We just don't know what they do.
This one that you have to.
Yeah, that was very Buster Keaton.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was going, "Oh my God! Make sure you touch those lights. Touch the lights, quick!" Yeah. So for me, that doesn't. All right, I guess to say, I agree with you. You said it's a hard watch. I think it is. I think this is one of those that you have to, again, sit down saying, okay, imagine the time frame when this came out. Imagine, what was the entertainment level at the time and the way it is. So yes, it's going to be overacted. It's going to be overly made up and overly lit, very high contrast lighting. So their faces look almost white sometimes. And it's going to be a simpler story so that people can read it and follow the plot, sort of thing. I thought it was interesting that they have, like you said, they have these entire scenes where people will talk for like 30 seconds, a minute, and then it'll cut to a title card and it'll be like 4 words.
Yeah.
That they said. And then later on near the end, when Fredersen goes to the bad guy, the professor. I can't remember his name. What is it? Rotwang. He goes to him, and instead of showing it, they have like 4 title cards in a row that tell this whole story. About how he went there that night. They had a fight. He blah blah blah, and Maria was free. And it's like you didn't have time to show that, but you have time to show these guys walking into an elevator for 30 freaking minutes.
Yeah. Oh, you got to show that oppression.
Show the oppression, baby.
Dwell on it. I don't know if we saw the same version, but in the restored version, the parts that had been put back in had not been remastered.
Right. And
so
scratchy.
It was very beautiful. And then there would be a really crappy looking shot. But the thing is I started taking tabs on those shots, and I was like, oh yeah, we don't need this. There's a reason why they cut this out. It's not necessary. It was a whole 30 minutes of stuff that was just really unnecessary.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 that I think were important near the end there, just showing Fredersen's regret over what's happened and him talking to the Thin Man guy and all of that. And there were a couple of those scenes I was going, oh, okay, now that one made sense, although it's really scratchy. But I could see them putting that one back in. But some of I agree with you. Most of the others, I was like, and we didn't need that. That's why it was cut. You can get rid of that.
Sometimes it was virtually the same shot, just repeated. And I was like, why did he do that twice?
Yeah. what about scenes? Any scenes impressionable to you in this one, or any major highs from this?
Well, the robot itself is going to be the main scene that's always going to stick out in my mind. And she stands and she walks down a runway, a small runway. It's very RuPaul. She even has platforms on. I was like, you get it, robot. But I don't, she moves really slow because I read that they used some kind of weird plastic stuff on her body that was it could move, but it looked metallic, but it really pinched her skin, so she didn't want to move, and that's why she was moving really slow. But it adds, the fact that she moves slow and is kind of creepy. It's very Frankenstein. And then that shot behind me of the factory with all the shit going on. I mean, a lot of the miniatures were really impressive to me.
Very much so.
But as far as like a scene, not really. I mean, and the whole scene where everything's flooding at the end and they're trying to rescue those kids, it was like something out of the Little Rascals, man. I mean, they were just running around and kicking at that grate, trying to get that grate out. I mean, it was kind of making me laugh. I think I was giddy by that point.
Yeah, things went on. All the beat points go on way too long. And again, that may be a sign of the times when it was made and the way movies were back then. But then again, you've got Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, all of them at this time too, and they weren't telling stories this slow.
No.
So,
a Chaplin movie is far more entertaining than this movie, for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, and one of my big keys is modern times. I think if you want another story that's similar to this, but in my opinion, a little bit better told, without the science fiction element, is Modern Times, which is his version of industrialization. I mean, I agree with you. I think the sets are phenomenal. I think the production design in general is phenomenal, even down to, I'm stuck in this room and it has all these doors. Even that design of the way it was, the cathedral is a cool design.
But when you talk about design, the only reason I know this is because my husband's big into decorating. Everything's like Art Deco, like the walls and the sconces and the lines. There's lots of lines, narrow lines. And I was like, but that's what it was at the time. That's not the future. That's what they were doing in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
So it was like other than that picture of like the flying vehicles and the subways, it really wasn't that much different.
Well, but it was huge and big. And I think they were trying to say that this is the way our society could be or can be, one way or the other, good or bad. So I think the design was good. I have to say, I like the cast in this, although they are over the top at times. There are other times when they're really subtle and good. I was going, okay, if we hadn't jazzed up those other scenes, this would have worked. I mean, all of them. Especially the girl. I think her being able to play both roles, and we know immediately, because I remember the first time I saw this, I go, are we going to get into like a William Shakespeare thing where they kill the wrong person? And, because they're
that is very confusing when they're burning her at the stake at the end. I wasn't sure which one it was. Were you?
Well, you could tell because of her eye. Her eye does that.
And that's my key right there. It's very Karloff. That she has like a Frankenstein monster face when she's the bad one, because one of her eyes droops a little. Yeah.
Right. I think she did a really good job. I think he does a good job, although there are some like homoerotic moments in this.
My God. Him and fucking Josephat are like, they've been screwing behind doors for sure.
Obviously, they're going to be best friends.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if that's true, but Josephat definitely has the hots for Friederson, the young Friederson, for sure. And you can tell that he was a little reluctant when they went back to rescue the girl from the flooded room. Yeah, when they're both like carrying her up the stairs. I don't think he was too happy about it.
Let her drown. I like the Thin Man. I think he does a good job in this. He's very menacing in a kind of cool, I'm going to take the notes. You picture him with like a Boris Karloff accent. I do. I pictured him with a very deep or maybe a Christopher Lee accent maybe would work for him.
Carradine.
Yeah. Oh, James Carradine would be good.
Mhm.
But I struggle in that. Is this science fiction? Is it not? It's more just a biblical allegory kind of thing. It's not.
That's really
a,
strange to me because they're preaching utopia, which is sort of a sci-fi concept, but then they're relying on biblical stuff.
Right, even down to the 7 deadly sins and the Whore of Babylon, all of that. What does
the
that
Tower
say
of
about
Babel metaphor works because the city is the Tower of Babel.
Correct.
So
the Tower of Babel one did, but then when it got into the Whore of Babylon stuff, I was going, and I think a lot of people really lose the plot there. I mean, what is the point? What was what was Fredersen wanting to do? Was Rotwang right when he said, oh, he wants the workers to rebel so that he can kill them all? Then why would he do that? Because his machines wouldn't work.
Right.
No, there's lots of the last of this don't make sense.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to convey earlier. When I said it has lofty themes, it's just got a really convoluted way of presenting it.
Correct.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
I mean, they hint at like Moloch early on, which is a great thing, a great demon that demands a sacrifice. And I thought, oh, they'll tie that in at the end, but no, they don't. They do have a sacrifice. They burn her at the stake kind of thing. And everybody's like, oh, sorry, it was the wrong person. Yay, good. Here are our kids. We're done. Thanks. It's like, what? You just burned a woman at the stake.
Everything's fine once their kids are okay.
Our kids that had to swim in the water for half an hour when they could have just, why don't you go up the steps? It's that simple.
Let's talk about Fritz Lang for a minute. I'm not that familiar with him. I've never seen M. Have you seen M? Because that sounds like a movie I want to see, but it's not really horror. It's more thriller, I think.
It's Hitchcock. It's what inspired Hitchcock.
Okay. It's got Peter Lorre in it. But what I was going to say is that Fritz Lang was very James Cameron with these actors. Like, he didn't give a shit about how mistreated these actors were.
Nope.
He was very abusive.
Yes, he was. And especially if you were a woman in his films.
Yes, like in a robot suit. He didn't give a shit if it hurt.
But she did a great job. And I was pretty amazed. Like when she's doing that whole Whore of Babylon dancing stuff, I was going, this is probably pretty risque in 1927.
Oh, she's got those pasties on.
Yeah.
Like she's fully naked up top, except her nipples are covered. I was kind of shocked.
I was going, I know they're flappers, so yeah, but and what does it say about society that she's dancing and all he does is keep showing these close-ups of these lusting,
these like guys that look like they're salivating and stuff. Yeah.
It's like, man, that's like, what are you saying? That's
there's your 7 deadly sins right there.
Right there. I think we got lust pretty much happening. Pretty bad.
I did as far as background, you mentioned Thea von Harbo. That was his wife, and she wrote the script with him, but apparently she would publish these things as novels first. Did you know that?
That I did not know.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And H.G. Wells was apparently a big influence on her, but in turn, when H.G. Wells saw the movie, he gave it a scathing review. He said it was the silliest thing he'd ever seen.
Well,
I thought that was kind of funny because she's influenced by him and he hates her, or he hates what they did. Maybe he was pissed because he recognized some of his stuff in there. I don't know.
Right.
It could have been a little professional jealousy there. I've got that it was the first feature-length science fiction movie, so that's the only difference, I guess, between From Earth to the Moon and this.
Okay.
And that it is our second German film, if you include Nosferatu, and that I would love to do Run, Lola, Run, but it's not really a sci-fi movie. It's just kind of non-linear.
True.
I love that movie. Extras, we've already talked about. There really was only one woman in this movie. I didn't realize that, other than extras.
Yeah, other than the extra moms who just basically scream, yell, or fall down on their knees and wailing. Yes.
Yeah. I really regret not watching the Marauder version instead of the restored version, but then I wouldn't have known had I not watched the restored version.
I think you should go back and watch it now because I really appreciated it. I like what they did with the music, and I like, I think Sting does a song on it. I think Bowie does a song.
Well, I can tell you, first of all, for those of you that are unaware of what we're talking about, in the 80s, Giorgio Moroder, who did the music for Cat People, another movie we've covered, as well as a lot of Donna Summer's disco hits. He's an electronic musician, scorer. Yep. He redid this movie in the 80s with pop music and his own scoring, and it did include Bonnie Tyler, Freddie Mercury, which was really Queen, Adam Ant, Pat Benatar, and Loverboy.
Yeah.
Sting, if he was in it, it's just not in my notes, but
yeah,
those are some.
I think I remember, I may be wrong, but I thought I remembered him being in it.
Yeah,
could be wrong.
I just remember Radio Gaga being in it. Isn't that in it? Or maybe it's in the Radio Gaga video that they use clips in Metropolis. I may have it backwards. I can't remember.
That may be it too. Yeah, I don't know that one for sure. I mean, I think the movie, I think it stands as a landmark just because it is so hugely impressive. I mean, one of my first notes is this is Busby Berkeley does silent movie science fiction. Because huge staircases, huge sets, people running all the time, and also I think it shoots for higher themes and higher thematics. It wants the audience to think and kind of challenges the audience on who's right and who's wrong. This one, the bad guy in it essentially stole this dude's wife and bore his child with her. Then she died, and that's why he's the bad, evil, mad scientist. So who's bad or not? Are both of them bad? That sort of thing.
And somehow he lost his hand.
Yes. Well, he lost his hand in developing the Metal Man.
We never see that.
But no, we never see any of that. And we're not really sure motivation by the end of it, but it wants to be there.
I lost my hand. Story. I lost my hand. Nicolas Cage at his finest. Shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
Because you lost your hand.
I know what it was. I did sometimes when I watch a movie like this and I start getting bored, I start like researching shit on my phone. And so I was like, this movie looks really expensive. I wonder if it's the most expensive movie in the silent age. So I started like Googling stuff and looking at inflation, and I really couldn't get a definitive answer, but the most expensive silent movie ever made was the silent version of Ben-Hur. So, and that was Cecil B. DeMille, I believe.
Yep.
I can't remember. And then, of course, later on, he went on. Someone went on to do Cleopatra, and that was but that was the '60s, Elizabeth Taylor version that notoriously ran over budget.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it didn't say anything about Metropolis. I wonder if maybe it was because it was a German film. I don't know.
Could it be? It was done in francs or Deutschmark.
Yeah, and it said it was like 2 million Dutch marks or something, and I was like, "How much is that? That's crazy." But then again,
at the time,
you can't really rely on IMDb for some of that budget stuff.
I mean, this movie had some cool stuff that I liked to it. I loved when again, it's the Chekhov theory, but the Chekhov rule, but when he first sees the 7 deadly sins and it shows them all, and then later on in the fantasy they all come to life, which I thought was cool, and death comes to life. I thought that was very cool.
It reminded me again of Frankenstein. The fact that the one in the middle was a skull, and it reminded me of that Grim Reaper statue in the cemetery of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why is it, if there's 7 deadly sins, why are there 8? Right. And I was like, and why is death with them?
Well, because death, if you engage in the 7 deadly sins, you're going to die.
Yeah, I guess.
I liked the way he did the whole thing with the flashlight. Not only with the flashlights with the 2 of them, because I was going, ooh, that's kind of X-Files-y, because they each have their flashlights. But then later on, he terrorizes her with a flashlight in the catacombs and everything. I really liked that. I liked the way they They did that with, she's there going, and suddenly it shows a close up of the skulls and he moves around to something else and everything.
Hmm.
She's like, So
Oh yeah, it's just too terrifying.
I thought that was really, really clever. I love the elevators, even the personal elevators in his house that were just the personal, they were constantly going. And you just timed it to step into it when you wanted to go up or down.
Okay.
I thought, yeah, good luck with that.
Whoops.
And that's been done. I tried in my research to find it and couldn't, but that has been replicated in another movie where they did that same thing, where they took the Metropolis personal elevators where you just time it and you step in and go down or step in and go up. But they're always moving. And as the scene goes on and they're talking, people are going up and down in these elevators behind them. Thought that was,
Yeah, I don't know what movie that is. Is it one of those like Gattaca maybe?
Yeah, something like that. It was one of those that wanted to do it, and I can't remember.
I've
And
never
I
seen
also
it.
have one of my production notes, or my last production note in here is there's an early Finnerman lighting in this. When he first sees Maria, she is always lit with that backlight glowing her hair behind her, even as much front light as they got on her, and she looks so white and pale. But as she moves towards him and talks to the workers and everything else, she's just got this glow around her. I said, ooh, that's like an early Finnerman filter from Star
It's
Trek
when
or
she's the
Moonlighting.
teacher with all the children, right?
No, it's when he sees her in the catacomb and she's or in the and in the depths or whatever they call it, and she's first preaching about a mediator and he's coming and da 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 da. She it's when it's kind of like Dune. She's beautiful, the girl from my dreams.
My God. Well, I was thinking that when they're out in that weird looking garden and she comes out with all the kids and he first sees her, and it's quite clear he falls in love with her at that moment because there's about a minute and a half of his face looking at her and then her face looking at him.
Yes.
And I just kept thinking, oh, it's Miss Crabapple. Where's Spanky and Alfalfa? I was just waiting for, the our gang kids to be surrounding her because she's got all these kids around her and she's a
What's
teacher.
the name of the dog? Spot? Is that his name?
Yeah,
the dog.
Petey.
Yeah. Petey.
Yeah. I'm a big our gang fan. I know those characters very well.
Yeah, it would be interesting to tie them into Metropolis. I'd love to
Where's
see a
Weezer?
mashup.
There's Chubby.
That would be great.
What about Froggy?
I just glancing at my notes, seeing what I can finish up with. But my notes say, so these guys obviously really like it when she dances. So it was like, that was a creepy scene.
It was very creepy. They looked like, I don't know, Lon Chaney out there, just wide-eyed, wide mouth, drooling.
Yeah. And then there's that one fantasy hallucinatory scene in it, where he's freaking out and he's like falling and there's mist around him. And then there's all the eyeballs.
Yeah,
and
that was very Dolly-esque.
That was very, yes. Good key there on that one. What about keys? Do you have keys for this?
Well, first I was going to do awards. There were none.
Oh, please. None.
Because it was too early. I don't think they had awards back then, but it is on the 1001 movies you must see before you die.
Yeah,
so,
and I agree.
Well,
I think it should be.
Just remember though, Schneider says you should see this, but he doesn't care about The Martian.
Yeah, he needs to reevaluate that. There's probably a couple he could kick off and add that.
Yeah. As far as keys, the first one, well, I've already mentioned Frankenstein. But I would definitely, and I keep forgetting to change these pictures. I have other pictures, but when we were talking about the cityscapes, that one where you see the flying thing and the subways moving, I guess it's stop animation, is very Blade Runner to me.
Yep.
So
well, and Blade Runner in general, Blade Runner for the Blade Runner actually comes up in both of our movies today as a key. But it definitely is. I get Blade Runner in this. I also get City of Tomorrow, with a huge influence of the Disney kind of thing too.
Are you talking about Tomorrowland?
Yeah, the original movie that they used to show in Tomorrowland is very much like this, with the huge skyscrapers and monorails and tubes, people
Okay, I thought you
movers.
were talking about a movie. You're talking about a
And
short film that was shown at Disney World?
at Disney World, at
Okay,
Disneyland.
so I
Sorry.
can't really link that. Never mind.
And then Fifth Element too. Fifth Element, these huge cities with flying cars and airplanes and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I
And
forgot
you've
about
even
that.
got a picture of it there. Another Fifth Element key to me was her in the tube, because she's obviously naked, but the bars are strategically placed to not show anything. And that's the same thing they do in Fifth Element.
Well, except they use tape, but yeah.
Well, no, when she's in the thing, they actually have, it's at first it's where the joins are in the plastic that are in the tube,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
What else do I have? Most of what else I have, I lifted from IMDb, but apparently this one I really like. Is the fact that this movie was influential enough that the writers and creators of Superman in 1939 named the city Metropolis after this movie. And I found
good.
that I didn't think of it. I would have thought of it, but I just happened to read it first. And I thought, well, that's very interesting.
Great key. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have every robot movie ever made because it was influenced by this.
Robot movies.
So every robot movie, even up to Westworld, and Westworld the series and everything else, because I mean she basically is wearing the skin of somebody else. So who is she? Is she her? She's not. Westworld tells the identity story much better, of course, but it's that kind of thing.
It was funny in the beginning of this movie when the scientist Rotwang says, I can give her the image of a human in less than 24 hours or whatever. I was like, no, you can't. You can't make that hunk of metal look like a human. And he did.
Yeah. Using
like,
all
wow.
those state-of-the-art opticals that they had then, like lightning.
Yeah, actually here I have a picture of that as well, right there.
I mean, they did have
because she's got the sleepy eye.
Yeah, they did have some cool opticals that they used for the transformation scene. That was really neat. That again, another was a Frankenstein reference to me, because his laboratory was very Frankenstein-y to me.
Oh yeah,
showing all the bubbling tubes and
the weird electrical flashes and stuff. I thought that as well,
like the Jacob's ladders kind of arcs.
Yeah, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, "What? Frankenstein came out in 31, was it?
Mm-hmm.
So only like 4 years later."
Well, and it is very Frankenstein. I mean, he's creating life essentially, and so you could picture him after she stands up and everything else, and he does the whole thing. It's alive! It's alive!
Yeah.
I've got Prometheus, because when he reveals the curtain and you see the big memorial to Hel, who was Fredersen's first wife or only wife, and obviously Rotwang's wife as well, or Fredersen's mistress, Rotwang's wife, I assume. But it reminded me of the huge heads in Prometheus, those great big giant heads that they
look kind of metal,
planet.
or like they're plating or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned robot movies, but there's one robot in particular that this creature inspired, and that was C-3PO in Star Wars.
Yep.
The suit is very similar to the one that Anthony What's-His-Face wore.
Anthony Daniels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a huge influence. I agree with that. And I've also got a couple of classics. I had said Romeo and Juliet earlier, which is very true. These are essentially working class crossed lovers, because she's a lower class, he's the upper, and but bringing together at the end, although it doesn't end in tragedy, it actually ends in positivity. And then Hunchback of Notre Dame, especially that end when they're fighting over her on top of the cathedral and everything. It was very Hunchback to me,
I almost put that on the list this season.
Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Yeah, like the silent version and a modern version, but I didn't. Yeah, I had considered it.
And the Disney version. You have to do all, Tim.
Oh, no, we're not going to do the Disney version. I mean, I like it, but I don't need animated Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Didn't she do Esmeralda in that? I think she did.
Maybe. Don't know.
And the guy from Animal House did the Hunchback. And Amadeus. I can't think of his name. Tom Hulce.
Tom Hulce.
Yeah.
Really good. But yeah, I mean, that's basically all the keys I've got. I agree. It's an influential movie.
I have one more. I have some more keys.
Oh, do them.
Well, these I yanked off IMDb, but apparently the mechanical hand was imitated by Kubrick in Dr. Strangelove with a mechanical hand in that movie.
I wouldn't have gotten that, but okay, great. I mean, he does have a mechanical hand because it does the salute when he has to, he has to push it down and all that. But he doesn't lose control of his hand in this. He just has a robot hand. So does Luke Skywalker. I mean, if you're going to use that as I would say Luke Skywalker then.
Okay, then Luke Skywalker. We've already got Star Wars though.
Yeah.
The Bible. I love being able to say that. The Bible.
The Bible was so influential.
The Bible's influential in this. We mentioned the Tower of Babel and the Whore of Babylon, and they are both referenced heavily in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Because the apocalypse is coming. Apocalypse.
Apparently, and I'm going to read this. This is interesting. When Fritz Lang was visiting the U.S. in 1924 for the premiere of his Die Nibelungen Siegfried, whatever that was, he had his initial inspiration for this movie when he saw the New York skyline. He then asked his wife to write the novel, and they later collaborated on the screenplay.
Great. Yep.
So New York inspired this movie. Thanks, New York.
Yes.
And this one is just we also mentioned, much to Fritz Lang's dismay, Adolf Hitler and Goebbels were big fans of this film. Goebbels met with Lang and told him that he could be made an honorary Aryan despite his Jewish background.
Mm-hmm.
Goebbels also said, Mr. Lang, we decide who is Jewish and who is not. He left for Paris that night.
Yeah. Yes.
He got out of there.
Get out. Things aren't
Get
going well.
out. And then lastly, this is just me. This is something funny. I don't know why. I don't know if IMDb has a hang up with Guillermo del Toro, but they always have little clues to Guillermo del Toro. And in this one, this is one of his personal favorite movies. The last one that we referenced was that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre made him become a vegetarian.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it seems like there's always like a little note in the trivia occasionally about Guillermo del Toro, which just tickles the shit out of me. So, well,
this is a very, I do have another one, which is Wagner. This is a very, this is Fritz Lang. He had told Wagner's story before you just mentioned it, Die Nibelung, which is
is that what that was? Okay,
from the Wagnerian his stories. And if you look back at his movies, with the exception maybe of M and some of his latter ones, but his early movies are all like this. They're very grand, very grandiose, huge sets, huge casts, that kind of thing. So a very Wagner approach to storytelling in general. And that makes sense because it's German, of course.
He's related to Robert Wagner, isn't he?
Robert Wagner? What the heck? No.
He was married to Natalie Wood.
No, that is not the same Wagner.
Isn't that how you spell it, though?
Yeah, it is how you spell it, but yeah.
Sorry.
But nobody says, let's tell the Ring trilogy of Wagner. It's just a thing, Oh, I was, the podcast I listened to, Morbid, they were doing I told you they were doing the Mansons recently, and she kept saying Warchek Wachowski or whatever instead of Vorchek, because his name is German, but it's spelled with a W, and she kept saying Warchek, and I would go, just don't do it. Anyway,
how did you pronounce Bugliosi?
She didn't say Bugliosi, but she struggled with what was his other name? What was one of the other names? Bobby Beausoleil. The one that they went to kill and everything. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, sorry. We digress.
That is a digression, but it's also a segue, I would say, to our next film. Unless I have nothing else to say about Metropolis, and it clearly had not much to say because it was a silent film.
Dun-dun-dun.
So we're talking females and we're talking robots. And
Yes.
what better to do than to pop how many years further into when did this movie come out? It came out in like 2020 or 2019. Yeah, 2019.
So again, 90 years into the future, and we have a new movie about a female robot. This one is called I Am Mother. If you have not seen it, it was kind of touted as a Netflix original, although it was not a Netflix original. It was actually bought from Sundance. They actually saw it at the Sundance and bought it there. And
they do that a lot.
They do that a lot.
And foreign
and
films.
It says, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was directed by Grant Sputor, I think is his name. He actually co-wrote it with another director named Michael Lloyd Green. They're not very well-known directors.
Not at all. I looked both of them up. They don't have hardly anything else.
This was like a passion project for them. It has a great cast. Luke Hawker, Rose Byrne, Maddie Linton. It's Australian, as you said. It is a foreign film. So it is Australian, although you wouldn't really know it from the accents or anything else.
Well, and it's got Hilary Swank, and she's, I mean, actually, none of the actors sounded Australian to me. Yeah.
Right. And basically, this one is extremely classic science fiction, in my opinion. It's a traditional, I guess, science fiction set in the far future, obviously on Earth, we think, but, doesn't really matter. We are going to tell human stories, but humanity essentially is totally extinct. We think at the beginning, we follow a teenage girl as she's raised by a robot whose motives are to repopulate the Earth. But things get really twisted and strange when a stranger shows up who is another human survivor, another female. She basically tells the daughter, whose name is Daughter, that Mother, which is the robot, is lying to her, and she's actually bad, and they exterminate humans and tries to,
Mother's also told her that it's unsafe out there, that levels of toxicity or something.
Correct. Too. And so there's a rebellion plan that goes awry and lots of twists and turns, and we have a very kind of very, to me, a thought-provoking and kind of very interesting twist at the end. Had you seen this movie before?
I had not. I remember when it premiered. I don't know why I didn't watch it, but I didn't. But I liked it a lot. I was jonesing for something modern after watching 2.5 hours of 1927.
Yes, right.
And I found, I thought Rose Byrne's voice was great for the robot. I thought the robot was really, really cool.
Great design by Weta, the same guys that were started by Peter Jackson to do Lord of the Rings. That special effects studio designed the robot,
which makes sense then because Australia's over there near New Zealand.
And the key is the dynamics, the American Dynamics robots that you always see, the ones that can do flips and walk and everything else. That inspired the overall design of the way the Mother looks.
Yeah, I love it when she runs. That's pretty impressive. I was going to ask you a question about this. I've never heard really of this term, but apparently this screenplay was featured on the 2016 Blacklist, which is an annual listing of the film industry's most valued unproduced scripts. Do you know anything about that?
I had heard that. I had not heard the term blacklist, but I knew that there were several lists that have circulated for decades. Like Jacob's Ladder was on that list forever.
I remember that
a
forever.
screenplay that everybody thought was awesome, but nobody would commit to producing it.
And yeah,
So
until
it's
Alan
like,
Parker.
another one is the one we talked about. Jodorowsky's Dune is on that list too. That never produced, the greatest movie never made, kind of thing.
But apparently it was. I mean, it wasn't on there long because Michael Lloyd Green wrote it, and he still. I mean, so I'm assuming it went on there around 2016. So I mean, that explains to me why these guys are relatively unknown. It's because this was their project, I guess.
Yeah, this was obviously a passion project and a baby that they did. I mean, face it, other than the robots, there's only 3 characters in this. 2, actually. Only 2 that we actually see. Well, and the girl at the beginning, the first teaser, the little girl.
You're talking about when she's young.
Yeah. But you did like this, right?
Oh, yes, I did like it. I
Okay,
liked it a lot.
Because you just said the first plot thing. There are times in this one where I feel like they kind of padded it a little bit, and they're just kind of getting to plot twist sort of thing a little bit. Not too bad. I enjoyed this movie. I really liked it. I love the performances in it. But like it took me this second watch to go, oh, okay, I didn't get that the first time, which is the girl at the beginning isn't daughter. The girl at the beginning that we see in the teaser is actually girl number 1. She's the first.
She's Hilary Swank
that mom gestates. Well, it's hinted she could be Hilary Swank, or 2 could be Hilary Swank, because daughter is actually 3.
Because we see the missing slots of the embryos.
And the only way we have that are 2 things. One, when it does the cut, it says something like, 6,950 days later or whatever it says. But it's basically 38 years later from the opening teaser where mom is talking to daughter, the young daughter. And when we see daughter that we're used to, the actress in her teenage years, she's like 17 or something like that. But it's been 38 years since the last scene. So obviously time has passed and that's not the same person. And then the only other time we did it is when daughter pulls up the embryos and there's 3 missing.
Right.
And she realizes she's the 3rd.
Well, and she finds the jawbone in the incinerator.
Yeah. And mom's been trying this before, sort of thing. So this is a very kind of a convoluted plot once you get into it. How did you kind of interpret the overall, like the big plot twist at the end, the big flip at the end?
I mean, I kind of expected it. I mean, I immediately thought that Hilary Swank was another one of the children because she looks so much like the one that's there. They have almost the same hairstyle and facial features. And I guess the reason, even though it's sci-fi, I've told you I always have a soft spot in my heart for post-apocalyptic movies, and this is a post-apocalyptic movie, big time, because something major happened on the outside, and there's barely anybody left. The thing that struck me the most about this movie, as do even zombie movies, is the human element. I love that you have Mother, the robot, who takes on a persona which seems nurturing and in tone, but then all of a sudden you have a real woman in the picture, and it's like, okay, which one do you believe?
Right. Because
of the juxtaposition, you've got 2 mothers basically now, a human mother and a synthetic mother. That to me was the driving force of this movie.
Yeah, I think the title was very appropriate because I Am Mother stands for the robot, then stands for Hilary Swank because she is a surrogate mother to her, and then then stands for her at the end because she becomes the mother of the human race,
right?
Essentially, which was
that
mother's
I had a little bit of a
intention
problem
to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the whole thing. It's a very layered, convoluted in a way, sort of thematic, because I mean, I read 2 or 3 reviews of this too. And, one of them even posited that at the very beginning, as we're establishing the reproductive research facility, I think is what they call it, but the reproductive, where mother is, and mother's actually being assembled, right? She's actually waking up, essentially. Everything is shaking and bombs are falling and everything else. And this one reviewer said that she actually created the apocalypse. And so she started it all because humans weren't right. Humans need to be improved. And that's what she's been doing for 38 years.
I mean, that makes sense. That could happen.
And the big test was the thematic under this is the big test, which is the medical one, the medical question of you've got the 5 people. Do you save one to and let 4 others die?
I hate those psychological evaluation questions like that.
Right.
When she was doing those things, I was like, oh my God, those things suck.
Right.
There is no right answer.
But that's the whole point, is that mother, I love the line where she goes, mothers need to learn too, and everything else. And I'm learning about you, daughter. And so it's this, what is the right answer? Are we making a better human? Because I do like the twist where you find, because the whole time I kept thinking, as long as you just get away from the freaking robot, you'll be fine. But no, she's the AI. She's actually every robot. She's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So killing one doesn't really matter because they're all her. But yeah, this reviewer went on to say, and that's why when daughter escapes and everything else, you see all the terraforming, because mother actually initiated that once she passed the test. And she realized humans were ready to go to ground again. So now I can start terraforming. So mother's been in charge of all this, even down to the fact that that's why mother kills Hilary Swank at the end, because she was supposed to show up. She was supposed to be a part of it.
Right. She was a part of the overall plan.
Right. Right. Which is great. I think it's cool. I do think, my big key for this is Ex Machina. I think Ex Machina tells the story a lot better. This whole sentience and what's the perfect human, and is there a perfect human, and whatever. I think it tells a better robot story.
I think it does too. I have a little bit of a problem at the end when mother does agree to let daughter start anew.
Right.
And basically powers down. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Are you telling me she's just going to shut down and just, let it ride? But then she kills Hilary Swank. So she's not entirely gone.
Oh, no. She'll never be gone. She's
an AI. So it's almost
she's
like they
just
left
a
room
robot.
for a sequel. It was kind of weird.
Well, and I read that they talked about the ending being a potential for a franchise or a potential to set something up, because it is so vast. I mean, there's 63,000 embryos or whatever it is.
Oh my God, it's going to be the new Logan's Run.
So yeah, could you do a perfect human, could you now go 38 years more in the future and you have this society that's developed, through these embryos, and then how perfect would humans be? Kind of thing, which is we're supposed to think that the whole time. I mean, one of my biggest keys from this, which I thought I really liked, I hope you like it as well, is this is Frankenstein Part 2. This is Frankenstein if he got to create another creature himself, if he became the creator. Because mother is Frankenstein. She is the monster that was created, and now she's trying to create life again, sort of thing. So it's kind of like Frankenstein, the sequel, or whatever. Because it is that layered on top of it all. There's lots of plot twists in this. There's lots of, the bullet came from a human. No, it came from mother. Oh, what is it? Oh, that's proof. Well, really, is it? We don't know. Maybe.
It's one of those movies that reminded me of when we were young and would say, oh, that would be great on stage. We could do that on stage because it's all in one setting.
I could easily see, with the exception of going to the train car, which you could also do with one scene change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could easily see this as a play.
But you would have to have a really good robot or it would
No,
be
duh.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to have a really good robot. What about, okay, scenes or anything like that that stick out to you that you like, that you thought were cool or whatever? Not really.
Well, I mean, it has the same general tone throughout most of the movie, except when it gets a little high paced or a little fast paced at the end. I like the actress that plays the girl a lot.
Very good.
Because she plays her without what a normal teenager would have, that normal. I mean, there's not a lot of angst. There's not a lot of rebellion. She's very neutral.
Right.
And
she's been bred to and taught to be that. I think that was very interesting. It was great.
Yeah.
Great work with her. And, she reminded me of, who's the girl who's in Divergent? The girl who I never pronounce her name.
I have no idea.
Saraza, whoever the girl is, she reminded me of her. But and looking her up, she hasn't done that much either.
No,
well, she's young. Man, somebody needs to hook on to her because she's got a lot of potential.
Yeah,
really strong.
Marvel
and Rose Byrne's voice acting is great. In this, her voice acting is great in this.
I loved her. I was like watching it and I was like, I know who this is, but I can't remember. And I looked her up and I was like, okay. Yeah. She's fantastic.
It's great. Hello, daughter. I mean, it's very HAL 9000-y. It's very Moon, Kevin Spacey and Moon. It's that kind of,
the robot itself is very HAL with the round
one eye
view.
It can't be good with one eye. A robot with one eye will never work. It will always be bad.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my keys, is that they're trying to pay homage to 2001 with that.
Oh, yeah.
But that also sets up a key subtext, because when you think HAL, you've already got in your head not necessarily good,
Yep.
So she's already got that. Just, if you've seen 2001, she's highly suspect. The robot, that is. Yeah.
Well, and not to trust her. Just don't trust her. You can't.
Yeah, but I would be torn. I mean, I'd be like, you know what? It's pretty nasty out there and it's nice in here. I think I want to stay.
But that's what I mean, too. One of the things that works. So I love, we talking about scenes. Some of the scenes I like are more the technology. I love the fact that Mother can become warm. And she glows when she's heating up the baby and everything and all that. And I love her inflections where you can see that she's conflicted too, or she's thinking, and the way they do like just a little bit of the lights go or whatever. And I was going, it's just her voice and nothing we can use as an expression. No eyes, no eyebrows, nothing. But we still get but we still get the entire meaning, the entire emotion in it.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
Yeah.
The way she does stuff. And then later on, when you start to suspect Mother, then now it becomes, I'm really latching on to her inflection about, oh, wait, I know that's not good. That's not good when she says it that way. That's not a good thing. She's going to stick her finger in your wound.
The voice alone is misleading because it makes you want to like her.
Yes.
And you don't, it's like Hilary Swank's character is saying, you can't trust her. They're all the same.
They're all the same. The machines are bad.
Yeah. That was another key I had, Terminator.
Oh yeah. She's Linda Hamilton. She's Linda Hamilton light or whatever,
Right.
Yeah, Terminator's in there. 2001 definitely in there. RoboCop too, to an extent. The way Mother does the side turns and then the head.
Oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but you're
very
right.
RoboCopy.
And it runs like Michael Patrick or whatever.
Oh yeah. But before that, it kind of clunks along. It's very, you know, and then all of a sudden it starts running and you go, holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the way they do that at times when you're so convinced because of her soothing voice or and then she does something really robotic and big and you're going, oh my God, she could crush me at any time. She could kill me.
Yeah.
Which is the way we feel about our mothers, you know. You better shape up or she'll kill you. She will kill you.
There was one other thing I was going to say, and now I cannot remember. It had something to do with Hilary Swank, but oh well, it has left me now.
With her character or with her?
Oh, I know what it was. I thought it was interesting that she lied to lure the girl away.
Yeah, because she was so lonely. Yeah, yeah.
And she made up that these pictures were people that she knew and that they were in the mines with her, and that she could. And she fell in love with the picture of the young man. He's about your age. That one. And I was like, oh yeah. Mothers manipulate too. Yeah, mothers use whatever ploys they can to get you to do. Yeah, it's very true. There was to me there was and I actually saw this one online as a key, but there's a very mommy dearest vibe at times near the end when she's like, that's hilarious. Daughter, you need to do this for me now. Mother says so, you know. Except she just doesn't have any wire hangers. She just, you know. No, and I would have never put that together, but that's hilarious. And I'm very glad. Well, that kind of inspired me because then the other one that gets me is a very terms of endearment thing. At the end of this, it's a very sacrificial for her. I'm willing to sacrifice myself for you because I'm your mom. That's what moms do, you know, kind of thing. At the same time, I'm also killing my other daughter in the other, you know, at the beach, but you don't know that. Oh my God. All right. You get an honorary toaster in the gay club. You don't get a card because you're not a member, but you do get a toaster. What's your address? What's your address? We're sending that out today. I mean, you've used mommy dearest in terms of endearment as 2 keys. That's like out of my playbook. Well, I have some other keys that were basic. You know what? I don't have any awards. Actually, it was nominated and won several Australian awards is what I wrote down. Yeah. But I didn't write like individuals because we've never heard of them. Yep. And then I have some keys that I copped from IMDb, but I also have some keys of my own. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention The Shining. Because when she carrying that giant fire axe around, I was like, okay, Halloran, watch out. Okay, yeah. Because she's like limping around with an axe. Actually, no, she wasn't limping, but her mother did tell her, or the robot told her to put it down. Yes. Twice. Another one I would be remiss without mentioning is Disney's Dumbo, because the song from Dumbo is used twice in it. Baby Mine. Yep. I can see that. I have a Disney Wally. It's very Wally. Yeah. You know, you're by yourself, and then you find somebody, and there's kind of allusions to that, and also the design, the very blocky design. It's very Wally, although this one's more humanoid looking. Yeah. This one actually reminded me of that other movie, the one that, District 9 was done by what's his name? I can't pronounce it. It's Australian too, isn't it? Chappie. Is that the name of the movie? Chappie as the robot. Yeah, Chappie. Oh, I thought you were talking about the director. Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he did Chappie as well, which was like this. The robot design's similar. How do you spell that? Chappie. I've never heard of it. Yeah, it was a movie he did after District 9 about a robot. Yeah. Okay. The horror side of me has to continue down that path. There are blatant homages to Alien in this movie.
Oh yes.
When the fire alarm is pulled and there's red lighting and smoke and they're running through hallways, I was like, oh, that's Alien. And then there's one scene where the little girl or the teenage girl looks up over a counter and it's the same Sigourney Weaver shot from Alien. I was like, okay, yeah, they know what they're doing. Little Ridley Scott homage
all
there.
of the laser sights and
Oh
everything was
yeah,
also
those
really
two.
alien to me. Yeah, I could see a lot of alien in places in this. Yeah. One that I found online that I can't concur with totally because I've never seen it is 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Is that the one with where they're in the bunker?
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
the thought that, she's told one thing about the outside world, but she doesn't know. And that makes the whole curiosity about it worse. And is the
Yeah,
person who says they're protecting you really protecting you, or are they imprisoning you?
right.
Sort of thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I should
that.
have got that because that is a very big key. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen that,
Um,
you need to see that.
okay. It's on my
Yeah.
list. I've just never seen it.
It
I've
may be
never
on our
watched
list.
that
I
one.
just don't think we've picked it.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but
I have a key that was from IMDb because I don't know this, but apparently there's some video games called Portal and Portal 2.
yeah.
And apparently this is very similar to those, and where a woman is trapped in a facility and forced to perform tests.
True, and she does, and there is a sentient female AI in it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've only played the first one, and I haven't finished it, but I played part of it.
There's an anime that is Japanese called Kasan that apparently this movie borrows a lot from.
Ooh, okay. I'm not familiar with that because it's
See,
anime.
me either. I would not know that.
No, I wouldn't either.
And then, of course, the book that Hilary Swank draws in is Gods of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs.
I've got a couple that are, well, and also there's a Wizard of Oz is in this too, which is also about, a faraway land and people manipulating from behind the shadows kind of thing. Because that's what she reads to her at the beginning.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Have you read Gods of Mars?
Nope, I've not.
It says there's thematic similarities. Both feature characters that are being misled about the true nature of the world they live in, and the arrival of an outsider exposing some kind of deception.
Yep.
So that's a definitely what this movie is about. So I'm assuming that so is the Burroughs book that's planted in there very strategically.
I had a few that are like, I'm not sure how you would call these keys. These are like maybe setup keys or whatever. They're like, we're supposed to think one way because of what we're used to, and then it turns out not. And that meaning we're supposed to think that killing mother, that's it. She's dead, and that's all. And and all the other robots listen to her, and they'll all die when she dies. Kind of like vampires. Once you kill the big vampire, all the vampires die. Or Game of Thrones, when you kill the Night King, everybody's going to die.
Or like when you kill Dracula, all the brides die.
All the brides will die, all that.
Yeah.
But instead, we're suddenly thrown a curve when she kills Hilary Swank, and we realize, no, it's more like Ultron, where it doesn't matter where she is. She's gonna be everywhere, kind of thing. And
I forgot Ultron. That makes perfect sense. And you said something before that, and now I can't remember what it was.
Vampires?
No, it was before I talked about Gods of Mars.
Wizard of Oz?
That was it, Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
I'll put that down.
Yeah, because that's what she reads to daughter at the beginning.
There's no place like home. But what is home?
But what is home? Home is horrible.
This one
go out there.
is obvious, is Blade Runner, the little origami animals that she makes. Or it could be X-Files Born Again episode.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
Which we did talk about on our Patreon podcast.
Our Patreon podcast.
X-Files Declassified.
Yeah, and also the whole concept of forming the world forming something out of something else sort of thing. She's terraforming the world, she's taking paper and making it into aminals, all of that. And I was wondering if they also wanted us to think like Decker. The whole thing about the origami in Blade Runner is that leads to the question of, is Decker a replicant? So the whole thing about this origami is, does that lead her to trust mommy or not? Or are things the way that I think they are? Very Philip K. Dick sort of, don't trust reality kind of thing, which is very. I think that's an undertone to from the very beginning of this. I think them saying, 3,876 days later or whatever, and you're going, she looks awful young to be 38, or she looks awful young to be that, we're supposed to start being distrustful from the beginning. But then again, I think it's also every like I said, every robot movie ever made. We're not supposed to trust Mother. We, we instinctively as movie watchers go,
yeah.
No,
I mean, I think that's the whole reason they use that Hal-like design, is because you already mistrust her because you mistrust Hal. If you know 2001.
That so soft voice of talking, So and we all know when mothers get soft like that, it's not a good thing. Usually, when they go, you need to come here right now. That's like, oh no, I'm gonna get the spanking or whatever,
Fine. Here's the antiseptic. Treat yourself.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I was like, well, that's very motherish.
That's a very mom move. Okay. Yeah.
Strange.
But I would highly recommend this one. I would like too. This movie. And it just popped up. I mean, I saw it on Netflix and went, oh, robot, Hilary Swank. Yeah, I'll give it a try. And went, woo, nice. I was very pleasant. I had not heard anything about it at all. And naturally, I'd never heard of the director, writers, because I don't think anybody's heard of them.
Well, and I've been getting it confused with something else. There's something else out there called Mother that you talk about, and I always confuse it with this film. Isn't there another series out there called Mother?
I don't think so. There's a horror movie called Mother.
No, it's not.
What's his name that stars? What's her pretty girl, Jennifer Lawrence?
I want to say it's another show with Hilary Swank, and that's why I get them confused. Is she in another sci-fi series?
Not that I'm aware. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think so.
There's something. It's definitely in a past podcast because we talk about it, and I'm like, you need to enlighten me because I can't get the two apart. I can't tell the two apart.
Hilary Swank's in a sci-fi series called Away that I really like.
That may be what I was confusing.
That is another. I think it's HBO though, not Netflix. It may be or something. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
but I've just
I haven't
seen
either.
Things from it, but it looks really good. But she plays an astronaut in it. Yeah, and it's another sci-fi with her. But I don't think there's another Mother.
There's nothing else with the word mother in it.
No, the word has never been used ever in anything else.
No, in the title.
Not that I'm aware of.
I Am Mother, Mother's Day, All About Your Mother, which is Pedro Almodovar. How I Met Your Mother.
All About Your Mother.
What's that? How's Your Mother?
All About Your Mother.
All About Your Mother, which is Pedro Almodovar.
I told you the big one's that horror movie with what's her name, Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence. I've never seen it.
They say it's creepy.
I've heard that. It's like it's got Javier Bardem in it too, doesn't it? Or somebody.
Yeah, Javier Bardem. Yeah. What's it? Who's it by?
It's one of the. It's not the Wachowskis, but it's something like that.
No, it's the guy that did Pie. I think.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Like some
Darren Aronofsky.
Aronofsky. That's right. Wachowski, Aronofsky.
It's like those Wachowski brothers. It's
One
a
of those-
ski. It's one of those ski
Polish
guys.
descended people. I
One of
have
those-
no idea.
one of
But
those
it
ski
sounds like it.
guys. Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, I can't remember what the other mother thing was, but it may have not been mother. Maybe it was Hilary Swank that I was.
And I may have
confused.
been wrong and said it and been referencing this and got you all confused. Or
Maybe
whatever,
I can't
too.
remember.
I don't know.
And I don't remember what episode it
I
was,
get-
but we talked about it. Anyway, I have no more keys, and
Shailene Woodley was the girl I kept. I say this girl reminds me of Shailene Woodley from Divergent.
I don't know anything about that movie. That's young adult, right?
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. But I had teenage daughters, so I know a lot about why.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
There you go. There's that.
Would you let them go out into the world with a robot?
sentient robot? No, no, I wouldn't. Probably, I would not do that. That probably wouldn't be smart. No. But sometimes I feel like the guys they date are sentient robots.
Oh,
that are
there you
evil.
go.
But there's that. So there's that too. Yes. So I think overall we did good on the double feature because it was robots.
I agree that robots, but there are no way. There's nothing. There's no
Females.
thematic.
There is no thematic
At
really that ties these together. So
Nothing. At all.
I mean, it would have been better to do I Am Mother and Ex Machina. They would have probably
Right.
been a better double feature.
Right, or
but-
Metropolis and something about a city in the future, like Gattaca or something. I don't know. I
yeah,
haven't seen
utopian version. Sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gattaca. Yeah, we missed the mark on that one.
But we're glad you're listening to it.
Yes, we would like to thank you for listening to us. This is, gosh, what is the date? October 18th. You know what? I think our next film is going to be our Halloween episode.
Yay!
Yay! And we will be back in my territory, which is a
Mhm.
little darker and a little more sinister. Until then, we would like to thank you for tuning in. If you're
Yes.
watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. Just hit that little button. It's just a little move on your part, but it's a huge move for us. And if you're wanting more of us, there's always Patreon. We have free stuff there as well as subscription-based content on the X-Files and Star Trek. And until next week, David, I guess I will be seeing you. I'll be
right.
seeing you.
No, 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 no. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.